Hey guys, what's going on? Admin Wilt here. We're here for the Ruby Nation podcast, and today we have admins Pira,
Hi.
Yang,
Yeah.
Blush,
I
and Ironwood.
Woohoo!
Alright, so Volume 4, Episode 2, Remembrance. What are some of you guys' first thoughts about the episode?
Well, I'm gonna be remembering it for a while.
So it starts.
Right out the gate.
God
Not even 5
damn it,
seconds
Yang.
in.
Look,
am I the only one who doesn't cry at any of the pure related stuff in this volume? I mean, Judas Priest, guys.
I'm kind of obligated to. I'm dead.
She has a point.
it was in it was
those
in
of
the
you
death
at home
contract.
for those of you at home who may not know, we actually have a jar of ashes in front of a microphone right now.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
bit awkward.
I'm very talented.
Alright,
Yeah.
so
Were
Kara,
you
can I ask you a question?
Male harassment.
go ahead.
You can shave that question for later.
Alright, so we're coming into the beginning of the episode. Immediately, main character's Weiss. So we've got Weiss's introduction in this volume. She's just been called to go see her father. And then we meet a very special new character named Whitley. What are your guys' thoughts about him?
He has some.
so cute.
I feel like he has some ulterior motives.
He's awesomely smug.
Yeah, he seems a bit too happy.
Normally, when I see shady characters, I usually get a good feel for them immediately of whether or not I like them. If it's a character like Drebin, a character in Berserk who has a third, I know to love immediately because I know they are going to be awesome and do cool things. This guy is a complete uncertainty for me, and I do not like that. I just hope that he's awesome and doesn't pull some Azula shit from Avatar.
Okay.
That's a very good
Four
comparison.
franchises
Azula
immediate.
shit.
And that was four franchises listed off immediately. You're welcome, Ruby Nation.
We do not own any of these. Copyright infringement does not count.
Alright, well,
Right,
another thing
now
for the family that I don't know if you guys noticed, and this directly involves Whitley, was the family portrait.
Oh,
I think it was really good of show. I'm just going to say right now, I think it was a good way of showing, okay, there are no more hidden siblings or members of this family. You're good.
Is it
Yeah,
just
that's a
me,
good
or-
point.
Is it just me, or did like Winter look really sad in that picture though?
All of the females looked incredibly sad.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, if you notice the interactions, it's very much a patriarchal family. You can tell that it seems that the males are more valued than the females.
Yeah.
Like, females have their place, and their place they need to stay. That's why Weiss is always in trouble. That's why Winter's always in trouble, because they don't follow exactly what they should be.
Hmm. And then
Look.
when with what Whitley mentions about Mother being in the garden drinking, that's some heavy stuff going on in that family.
Really? I don't think that's pro drinking. I think it's like she's just sitting out, having some wine or champagne or something.
I don't know. If I was married to Jacques, I'd be drinking too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Heck, we already know how he treats his employees.
We know how he treats his daughters. We know how he treats his employees. What makes you think that he's really gonna show his wife any kind of affection outside of like what he feels dutied to? It's hard to say so early on. But like, look how he treats James. He snubs him because he's not getting his way.
Hmm.
So, speaking of which, I guess we're moving the topic onto the introduction of Weiss's father, Jax. What we think of him in that scene like that.
Yeah. With the entire family, I think we're gonna start to see where the whole relationship with the father and all of the siblings, the mother, all of that sort of is the reason why Weiss is the way she is. But I'm
Rebellious
curious
side
to,
coming out.
yeah.
Yay! I was so happy because in all of the fan art and all of the concept art, it shows her with her hair like knocked off to the side, and then you were introduced to her this season, and it was I was scared that she had lost her little rebellious streak, and that's it was either you loved her to begin with or you hated her to begin with because she's just so Weiss.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's a bit interesting with the whole Weiss family dynamic right now. But then a little bit later on in the episode, we're gonna stick with Weiss for now, and then transition over into Ruby's side of things a little bit later. But starting and continuing with Weiss's story, she comes in on Ironwood and Jacques confronting about business deals and how Ironwood is basically telling him, you have to stop. And as a businessman, he does not want to, and it's pretty obvious. I'm curious, like, are you guys for or against like Atlas sending dust out to the rest of the world?
But like I could understand kind of Ironwood's logic in it. Like it is kind of flawed, but you can see his line of thinking. Like you stop the supply lines, you stop kind of a leak, or like someone supply, taking from that supply and giving it to like what we view as the bad guys, But it's still kind of flawed, like to just block it off entirely because they'll probably have a considerable amount already. So maybe if he was more selective about where they were stored or where they were supplying it, then maybe maybe a compromise could be found.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually a little worried at this point because the fandom already has a bad impression of Atlas, which I personally find extremely annoying, and this will just make everything erupt even more.
Mm-hmm.
But
Not necessarily. I think the reason that James is doing this is because he's found out where and why all of this dust has been going missing. So, in order to stop it from falling into the wrong hands, you don't let it fall into any hands at all. But then again, you're hampering the people that are trying to help you because you've got dust users like RWBY, you've got dust users like Yang and Blake and Weiss herself. And if you cut it off from the hunters and huntresses that need it, how are they supposed to protect you?
Mhm.
I mean, like I'm saying, like the dust embargo is good, but like if we go back, I'm looking at the transcript here. It says Jacques is not happy about the dust embargo because it's hurting his business for obvious reasons, and and at least this is my point of view. He seems to have an elitist attitude that Atlas is much better than any of the other kingdoms, and anyone that knows me, like, as a part of the fandom, is that I am a huge fan of Atlas, but I despise the fact of people thinking that Atlassians think themselves much better than everyone else. But that's just me. What do you guys think about this?
I just kind of feel a little bad for Ironwood at this point because he's trying to not let his emotions hinder his actions. He's not being some muscle-headed general that his trope usually falls in. He's just trying to do the best thing right now, and it's like, yo, there's a leakage in all your unknown buyers of dust. Can this stop, please? I don't want more people to die. Can that not happen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
With Ironwood, I think since Volume 3, we've seen a big shift in his character, where he's seen what his enemy can do, and he's being a little bit more, I guess, sympathetic to those, and he's trying to cause any more damage being done. And I think with his new look, his new Volume 4 look, which looks fantastic,
Oh yeah,
um,
like
It just looks like the general just got fancier dressed, and that's not that surprising.
It's not surprising, but considering the last time we saw him, he was beaten up. He had all of this stuff just ripped from him. We got to see all of his cybernetics, and then now he's nice. He's cleanly shaven. He's got the nice suit on. It's a
Cleanly
nice
shaven?
look for him.
Cleanly shaven.
Oh, what?
Well, maybe not cleanly
I-
shaven, but he's rocking a nice 5 o'clock shadow now.
Speaking of which, like
I understand. He understands
I'm a-
Crow now. That's
I'm
what it's
a
trying to be.
Ironwood fan, as it's pretty damn obvious, but like I'm actually incredibly embarrassed of the fact that like in the multiple times before this episode, I when I watched the opening, I think it might have been how far he was away in the shot, but I did not recognize him. I just thought he was another Elysian general or something.
Okay. I will say when I first saw Ironwood, which at the time I too didn't realize was Ironwood in the intro sequence, and then when he showed up in this episode, it sort of made me realize, oh, that was Ironwood in the intro. When I was thinking along the same lines of, oh, that must be another new character, because I completely missed like the whole thing of the thing above his eyebrow and everything else, because he looks fairly different.
I never paused the intro, so that scene always went by in a second, but I always thought, oh, side grays and black hair, that's General Ironwood.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's because during that shot, everyone was paying attention to the person that we know now as Jacques. So.
Mhm.
Jacques. I like his name though.
And
I don't like him.
seeing as he wasn't in the foreground, that makes sense. But
So, guys, what do you think we'll see about Jacques in the future? Like what can we expect from Jacques' bizarre adventure?
The worst of George Joestar the First, if that's the reference you're going to make right about now.
Where's my purse?
Weiss, you completely beat that knight beyond the point where it could defend itself. How dare you?
Yeah.
Knife wound on your eye, so what?
But yeah, seriously, what do you think we can expect from him? Like, do you think we'll see him just be this stubborn opposition? Do you think he'll show any remorse?
I want his tower to fall.
Mhm.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I want to see Weiss put him in his place.
well,
Speaking of the,
I think that
go ahead, Ironwood.
no, well, yeah, like, I think that's what it was kind of building up to since we kind of learned of their problems in mid volume 3, like and maybe a little bit near the end of volume 2 when they're at the campfire about the problem with the Dust Company's hierarchy.
Mhm.
They're abusing some Jim Crow laws, basically.
Like, with regards to Mr. Schnee, I want to see why. Like, we already know that she rebels as much as she possibly can, but
Mhm.
you can tell that she's been raised to hold her tongue, especially when he addresses her in the episode and he goes, "What, have you lost your manners while at Beacon, or have you forgotten your manners while at Beacon?" And you can tell that she's sitting there biting her tongue and she wants to say something, but she doesn't because she's been raised not to.
Mhm.
And I want to see her break from that and just totally lose it on him.
And
As
that
I said, the only way I'm going to care for Jock Schnee is to see everything he holds collapse.
Mhm.
Well, I don't necessarily want to see it collapse. I want to see him humbled.
And
Yeah.
actually, that brings up a perfect point into the next thing I was going to bring up about the concert that Mr.
Oh,
Schnee
yeah.
is wanting Weiss to participate in. And I think
There's
that may
already-
be the moment we want where it's going to be a humbling moment for Jacques, because I don't think Weiss is going to just do what Daddy says anymore.
No.
Well, from the intro, like that would be like a fair presumption.
Well, to
Are
be
you talking
fair-
about when Weiss goes angry and summons that glyph behind her, which
Yeah.
I guess is going to be for another summon?
Probably, yeah.
Well,
Like like she kind of goes her own path, kind of. Like that's my view on it, really. If I'm being honest.
if you
My
do a-
concern with the concert is I've got a funny feeling it's not going to go off without a hitch, because they haven't mentioned yet if Atlas is still open doored or closed. So if they find out that there's this huge thing going on in Atlas as a moment of consolidarity, I can't see
The White
Salem's
Fang.
faction or the White Fang not taking advantage of that. And I've got a funny feeling that Weiss is going to step it up and step out and not necessarily not act like Weiss, but like she's going to act like the Weiss that we're used to, the Weiss from Beacon, and it's going to upset her father.
Mhm.
Because she's supposed to be this perfect, prim, proper little girl in the eye of the public. And she won't be. She will defend her home.
Exactly.
Well,
And-
at least it's So let me try it again. The Sneeze siblings aren't at least aren't like their father, because if you go back to volume 3, Jacques was actually did not even like the idea of Winter going into the Elysian military, let alone become a hunter or huntress in this case. Excuse me.
I think that may be a concurrent feeling from Jacques to all of his daughters, is that like I don't think wants them to be a huntress. I think he wants them to do what he wants, which like for Weiss would be a singer. Who knows what he wanted Winter to be? Maybe another singer as well. But he doesn't want them to basically drop his family's legacy, because either odds are he wants Whitley to take over the business, but he might have wanted his daughters to like be the regal businesswomen that he wanted, so that it would look better for him.
Exactly. That he wanted to use them as pawns. Chances are they would have been married off in a business trade
Mm-hmm.
or something to better his standing. And they're like, nah, dude, not happening today.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, your way of thinking has been dead for over 100 years and is just morally wrong at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in our world, it is. We don't know that much about remnants. We can't even
Oh
say
yeah,
that.
true. The most we know, like history-wise, is the Great War and the Faunus Rights Revolution.
Yep.
But
So it's hard to say.
definitely. Finishing up with Weiss's part of the episode, we have one more new character, Klein.
Oh,
I have been wanting to talk about Klein for a bit.
He is a nice old man who's just been watching too much of this crap from the sidelines, and he's just trying to be a nice person because he pretty much Alfred style watched these kids grow up.
But what's with his eyes?
The theory that I have about the eyes is some kind of multiple personality.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
we don't know how many, but at least I believe 4 to 5 perhaps.
If you're thinking
There
of
There
seven-
are already assumptions that he's based off of the 7 dwarfs of Snow White.
if you're thinking
That's
of
very
dwarves,
possible.
I am inclined to agree.
Hey.
Uh,
Or, back to
Grown-worthy.
I love it.
so
You
there were-
would.
so one thing I noticed when you mentioned designs is that he actually has the same type of mustache as Jock. Any thoughts about that?
Related?
maybe it's just an Atlas thing, because who knows? We don't know where Watts is from, and he also has a similar mustache, and It could
Maybe
just
they're
be
all part of Port's club.
yeah, they're all in Fort
Who
Fort
do you
Port.
think?
The
Yeah,
mustache
who do you think
motorbikers.
supplies? Who do you think supplies all the mustache wax?
Port.
Oh, isn't it obvious? It's Atlas.
He exports it.
God, Yang!
Will, do you have the counter up for this episode?
I wasn't prepared, but I will definitely have it for next time.
We've
I
all hung out with Yang a little too much. We've all been corrupted.
Yes.
I will definitely have the pun counter ready to go for next time.
That reminds me of the counter.
Okay.
I recently watched that episode of our
But-
podcast.
That's getting off topic.
All right, so
Very much so.
to finish up with Klein, we see that he is almost more of a father figure to Weiss than her own father, and also like he's got the multiple personalities, the different color changing eyes. What do we think could be his future?
I think his future is just like as a kind of moral and personal support for Weiss. You know, like there is a part of him that acts kind of sinister, but never is really majorly sinister. It's kind of sinister in almost a friendly way. You know, like I know that's kind of a bit of an oxymoron, but you get what I mean.
So maybe taking a little bit of an Alfred approach to a Batman.
Kind of, yeah.
I already compared him to Alfred.
Hey, it makes good sense though.
It does make good sense.
Well, obviously, if you're a nice man watching this from the sidelines, seeing kids grow up, you're going to tend to be a nice person. Unless you're
Guys.
just a huge.
At least we hope.
I
Guys-
do want to see Klein have a bigger role in the series, but I don't know what that could be at the moment.
Guys,
In all
I-
honesty, I've got a funny feeling that if Weiss were to leave Atlas again, because we know it's going to be against her father's wishes, because he came and retrieved her, I've got a funny feeling that Klein's not going to let her go alone.
No.
Well, you know the way she's kind of sitting on the sidelines for the moment.
Well,
Well,
Weiss-
I guess you could say Weiss is just not the huntress. Well, she's the huntress Remnant deserves, just not the one it needs right now.
well,
Yeah.
Weiss is Klein's happy little snowflake.
That kind of gave me just, I don't know, weird vibes.
How do you mean?
I felt like that may be like the sweet talking personality side to him, so he's sort of taking the role of like the kind frail old man in that state.
It's hard to say. I don't know. It gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I don't know why.
I didn't feel any of that from him, so maybe we're good.
I
We'll-
hope
we'll
so.
see.
Oh God, I hope so much.
All right, and I think that's gonna wrap it up for the Weiss talk for this episode, because that's about all we've gotten to go on so far. Odds are we're gonna see more of her, hopefully soon. But now we're going into Team Rangers side of things, and the first thing we
Hey,
see.
Finally.
Well, we're
Sorry.
gonna bring up we're gonna go in order from what's happened. And when we start off and we see Ranger this episode, we see the four of them walking down the road. They finally got their map because apparently someone had forgotten it when they had left. So I guess they came back and got it. But the
Ruby's
first thing
lost.
that we see is them approaching this village, which has basically been destroyed by Grimm
And bandits.
and bandits. And so,
Oh my God. Bandit
In
Grim.
reverse order.
Grim bandits? Grim bandits?
I-
Very grim.
I don't know about that, but when they mentioned bandits, the first thought that came to my mind is possibly Tyrion.
What? The good thing about having the
I've got a.
transcript up here is that
Kira, is this going to be your third funny feeling? Sorry to interrupt.
This might be, but let Ironwood finish.
I was saying like the good thing about me having the transcript pulled up here is that I can go back and if I can find the thing.
If I can find it.
Well, I think it's fair to say,
You
though,
do
that,
look
like,
people.
that the situation as it stands is pretty grim.
Yang!
That one didn't even have.
Yang,
that
don't!
one-
Yang,
That That one didn't
Barbara.
even have emotion put behind it.
See, it came
But,
out of
like-
nowhere. You just didn't expect it.
I saw it from a. Never mind.
Yep,
So
from
anyway,
that video.
we finally got a callback to a village that Ren wanted to look into back at the end of Volume 2, if you recall what John said to him as they were boarding the aircraft to Vale.
Yeah. Oh, do you mean what the that village that Team
Red
Red
apparently
visited?
really wanted that Ren really wanted to investigate. If there were other callbacks to his past, I may not recall them. There's apparently a lot of story and lore that I missed when I first watched the first 2 volumes. I
Mhm.
apologize.
So are you talking about when they
That's-
pick their missions and
Yeah.
Rin? Okay.
Ooh, but
I was gonna say,
And
I've got
obviously,
a-
with the looks that Nora and Ren gave to that certain marking in the sand, I'm sorry, Wilt, if I'm jumping across the order of events.
No, you're
again.
all right. I was actually we were just about to move into that.
It was clearly obvious to anyone, even someone who was half asleep, that Ren and Nora were just glaring at that mark with.
They
a look of
recognize it.
guilt. Yes,
Hmm
I've got a funny feeling this is gonna segue into their backstory.
that's 4.
I feel the
No,
same
that's
way.
3. That's point 3. Not. That's my funny feeling number 3. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Is I've got that funny feeling number 3 is that we know that they are orphans. What caused them to be orphans? What if their village was treated the same way, and what killed their parents were those bandits that left that mark? I've just
ooh,
Well-
backstory. So much. I can feel it.
So you think that's a bandit marking and not a grim marking?
Well,
I
it
honestly
obviously
think
was
it
one of
is.
those giant elephants.
I think that's them being like, we were here, don't mess with us.
I definitely know Rin and Nora have some connection with the symbol and like what's going on, because the looks that they exchange with each other, this feels familiar to them. They know like what is going on. And
They
so
know
I
stuff.
definitely agree with you, Pierre, on how it's like I think we're gonna start to finally see like what in the world has Rin and Nora been through.
They're gonna have
Like-
more depth.
What in the world of Remnant have they seen?
Wait, we already see the flash. Everyone can already see the flashback of just little baby child Ren and Nora, maybe at like ages 5 or so, staring down in the middle of their burning village. Like we already know that's going to happen.
well, Ruby's not one to shy away from that stuff, considering Yang's backstory in Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was made evident that this series wasn't going to shy away from this the moment we finally got that fake broken leg halfway through into last volume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the transaction from pennies to quarters.
Oh.
Nah, not quarters. Chump change.
Oh yeah, jump change.
All right.
Trust me,
Well.
I live with chump change.
Well, a little bit later on, we find RWBY and Team Ranger. They are continuing their journey, and then a familiar voice is heard in the darkness. The-
It was actually funny. I had just read a post from our page the day before, or the day or two before, about apparently how aura is like a part of the soul, and if you're using your semblance through your weapons, then you're essentially leaving parts of your souls behind. And someone was making this theory: maybe John will have visions or hearing voices of Kira or something, and then that appeared in the episode. But it was RWBY.
Mhm.
Weird.
Well, you have to remember is RWBY witnessed her death, which caused something in her to snap,
Mhm.
and that is traumatic in and of itself. So she's definitely suffering from it.
So
Plus, it just happened after seeing the result of Penny getting cut to pieces. So at that
Yep.
point, she obviously just had it.
She is.
Well, that-
She's done. She is done with the shenanigans.
Mhm. Well, for all of us, we did get a return of a very very missed character, but I don't think it was quite in the way that any of us thought it was going to happen. And gonna have an image up on the screen that shows exactly how they brought Pyrrha back into RWBY Volume 4, and the way that they did it, I feel like personally was probably the best possible way they could have done it.
I am
Yeah.
so conflicted.
I thought it was a good way of just kind of like showing Jean's current mindset amidst all like the joking and standing by what he says about the difference between ponytails and all that. But like there is a serious side to him now. Like he is determined
He's
to kind of,
changed.
yeah.
Mhm.
It kills me. It kills me so much. I am such a little ball of emotion, and just seeing him suffer like this, because you can tell he's suffering. He's grieving, and he's scared, because I think a lot of what his issue is he feels that his leadership, or his feeling of lack thereof, is the reason that she's dead. And he feels that I've got a funny feeling that he hasn't talked with.
Another funny
I'm
feeling.
sorry. It's how I express myself.
Mhm.
I have funny feelings.
Pun counter right now.
So I'm learning we need a pun counter and a funny feeling counter.
And as per tradition,
Don't even,
a counter.
don't even bother with the funny feeling counter, because you know what a classic song to end this episode off of, or this podcast off of. I'm sorry.
Oh God.
Break the silence.
No. You're not allowed to do that. But this
Anyway,
is Jean.
yeah.
Jean being serious, like dollars to donuts. He hasn't talked with Ren or Nora or Ruby about how he's feeling about the loss of Pyrrha, and he feels like he failed them and himself and Pyrrha in her death, and
He's
he's struggling to get stronger because he feels like he failed as a leader.
and I'm fairly certain he keeps on regretting his final words to Pyrrha when they had that bench talk. He's like,
Yeah.
damn it, what did I say? What did I say?
What have I done?
I'm going to play rage to these attacks now.
But
I
one
apologize
thing,
if there's random noises. Sorry.
it's fine. The big difference to take away from the ending of episode 2 is it looks like Jean, we finally get an explanation for why he has been improving the way that he has been, and I'm assuming this isn't the first time that he's had these little late night training sessions, and
Yeah.
with how much emotion he's putting behind it and getting so much stronger, you can tell like this is going to be a very big character trait for him, because he now has that huge emotion weighted on him, and so he's going to feel like he needs to do the best that he possibly can. And I think we got to see glimpses of that as he was doing his strikes. When we saw the wind, he was striking so hard that wind was coming off of his blade. And whether or not that could be a foretelling into semblance, I'm not for sure. It could be.
It
But
was just
it's-
the power behind his attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think it's
sorry,
solely
What is his semblance debate, please?
He's so powerful he can break wind.
basically.
So powerful.
See, that one was actually kind of clever. Fart
Yeah,
joke and all.
I'll give him that. But so we have Jean now, who is improving immensely, and I'm curious to see whether or not Ruby is going to confront him about what he's going through, because I think if that happens, they may be able to work through this together, and I feel like they're going to have to.
Yeah, because at some point this is going to be too damaging to John if he doesn't get this off his chest with somebody. And
Mhm.
yes, obviously, Ruby's pretty much the perfect person to talk to about this.
Because she was there. She's
I mean, come
dealing
on.
with a similar loss. They may not have
She's
shown
wearing
a lot
her
of.
cloak the same way Kira wore her cape belt.
Mhm.
It's a
Well,
butt cape.
Oh
well,
yeah.
she's wearing her cloak the same way that Kira wore her cape, and not to mention the fact that a lot of Ruby's new design is modeled after Kira's Penny's dress as well. So
Mhm.
You can definitely tell that Ruby is feeling the loss of her friends
Oh, definitely.
Nuts and dolls
for life.
for life.
All right, so I think we've covered just about all of the topics that have come up in the episode. I'm gonna go ahead and get your guys' closing thoughts, and we'll start with Ironwood.
I I'm just really happy right now because one, I'm back. Two,
I'm back.
this was in more ways than one because I've been off the page for a while. Two, this was half of this episode was like really Weissy, and I love it because like Weiss is my favorite of Team RWBY, and so I'm just loving this to death.
Mhm.
if I may go next, thank you for mentioning that, because this was something I was a little concerned about with the layout of the episodes, is that everyone was speculating, oh, each episode's going to focus solely on one of the four main members, and I'm thinking, that's kind of restricting, so I'm really glad with how the episodes are going to be so far, is that it's not going to be all about one character or one perspective at a time, which, thank God, because that would have been way too restrictive, especially since this series now has the freedom of not being in a school setting. Not that I minded the school setting before.
They would have had to jump all over the place, and it would have made telling the story a heck of a lot harder.
Definitely. All right. Yang, what are your closing thoughts?
Well, it was a pretty good episode, like kind of showing a bit into Weiss's family. It was kind of different to how I thought it was going to be, because, for like maybe the first few episodes, because maybe the first episode was mainly around RWBY, then there was Weiss at the end. I thought it was going to be mainly Weiss and then maybe Blake at the end, and then mainly Blake and then a bit of Yang at the end, and so on like that. And then after that, it would kind of just meld together into, different stories intertwining and all that. One thing I hope later on is we've seen the return of Ironwood and Pyrrha in kind of spirit. I really want to hear Ozpin again, because I love Shannon McCormick as a voice actor. He's one of the main reasons why Washington's my favorite character from Red vs. Blue, so I'd love to see him come back. Just to hear his amazing voice once again, to give some sweet advice to RWBY.
Definitely. And Pierre, do you have anything you'd like to add?
This season's not what I thought it was going to be. I definitely feel relieved because I was scared of the pacing that they were going to take. I was scared of where exactly this was all going to lead. Like, we obviously knew this was going to lead towards Haven. We obviously knew this was going to give us more insight into the character of Salem. And I was really hesitant and kind of concerned about where exactly and how exactly they were going to make this work. But I've been relieved. It is good, and of course it's nice to be back in some kind of way, because dying is not fun.
Definitely.
I don't 100% do not recommend.
That being said, I am bracing my heart for any sadness that might come in the next two episodes, given which characters are coming up next.
Definitely. Well,
yeah.
we're not even for sure that Blake and Yang will be in the next two. I would hope that they would at least introduce them in some fashion. But I think that's going to be it for us this week. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. This has been the RWBY Nation podcast. If you haven't heard of us yet, we are a fan group for RWBY and RWBY-related things over on Facebook. You should come check us out, like some of the posts, talk with some of the admins. And this has been Admin Wilt, Pyrrha, Yang, Blush, and Ironwood. And we'll see you guys next time.
And have a fantastic day.
High gold.